Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking on some gameplay using Mephisto and Dr. Doom. So it's Dr. Doom versus Mephisto. Which champion we believe is better and how to use them. So we're going to be looking at Dr. Doom first, and we're going to look at his abilities. He has that titanium armor. Dr. Doom is resilient and protects him against armor breaks, armor shatter, and shock effects, which are all very good. And this guy is probably the #1 champion in the game. He's definitely in everyone's top 5 or top 10. And here we have some synergies. The thing with Dr. Doom is he brings 10% attack for each, 10% attack is increased by 10% for every champion that is dead or died on the team. So that synergy is pretty much for him. So you want to bring him in last in the gameplay on your team or question. And Mephisto, well, this guy is an absolute beast. Mephisto starts the fight by soul imprisonment and soul imprisoning the opponent. But his passive is he generates 12% of power or a power bar per second instead of taking incinerate energy damage, immune to frostbite and cold snap. And he is immune to all the poisons in the battle realm. And he's immune when he's awakened to passive ability accuracy modifications. So he has quite a lot of utility. Immune to poison, cold snap, frostbite, and incinerate. Plus he soul imprisons the opponents for the first 15 seconds of the fight. And what that means, it reduces their ability to activate buffs in the first 15 seconds of the fight, which gives you a huge advantage. And when you fire off his SP1, it resets that timer, so you pretty much stop the opponent from firing off buffs or gaining any of their buffs that they normally would have. So let's look at the first fight. First, we're going to go 100% and take out Winter Soldier in Realm of Legends, and we're going to take on we're going to use Dr. Doom first and watch this gameplay. So this, by the way, so that if you didn't realize, is the 6-star unawakened Dr. Doom, and he is rank 2. He's actually the 3rd champion that I took to rank 2, the 4th champion that I took to rank 2. Mephisto being the 1st champion to rank 2 because I had no other 6 stars to take up at that time. But Dr. Doom is definitely at rank 2. So what you want to do with Dr. Doom is get to that SP3. You're going to fire off the SP3, which does a ton of damage. And the real damage comes after he fires off that SP3, because it doesn't matter. It does not matter what energy level the Winter Soldier has. 2 mediums and a couple taps of the light, and we get to that SP1, we fired off. We're going to power drain Winter Soldier. So Dr. Doom, tip #1, is really fantastic when you need to fire off that SP1 and power drain the opponent, or SP3, power drain the opponent. You're going to fire off the SP3 again. You're going to see Winter Soldier is almost at 3 full bars of power. We're going to fire off the SP3 here. And on regular gameplay, when the health pool is not as high as Winter Soldier, this fight is pretty much over after the SP3. We're going to do a medium. We're going to tap, fire off the SP1, which is unblockable. We drain almost a full bar power from Winter Soldier, and we're able to prevent the opponent from getting to 3 bars of power. So Dr. Doom is fantastic when it comes to power draining the opponent. And he does do a lot of damage. His SP2, as you can see, is unblockable in this event. And again, look at that incinerate damage. It is just insane. So he does a ton of damage really fast with that SP2. Power control with SP1 and SP3. The SP3 by itself doesn't power drain anything, but when you fire off the light attacks, you do power drain the opponent as well. So again, we're going to fire off the SP2, do some damage, incinerate, And here we go. The heavy staggers the opponent for 10 seconds, and you are able to just keep spamming that SP1, SP2, SP3 in whatever sequence is best suited for the fight. Again, Dr. Doom takes a little bit of practice and timing to fire off his specials, so that you keep that opponent power drained and controlled, so that they don't fire off an SP3 on you. The guy has a lot of health pool. His health pool is very high. He not only has a very high health pool, his block and his ability to take damage is insane. He is, as you can see, I'm taking quite a lot of hits here from Winter Soldier on purpose, and we're really not going down in health that much. So for long fights, power gain fights, fights where you need to control the champion, Dr. Doom is an absolute beast. Plus, he is immune to armor break, armor shatter, and shock effects. So one of the few champions able to handle shock. I believe a champion like Mcoc is also able to handle shock pretty well. So again, fantastic champion. We're going to take out this Winter Soldier pretty soon, and then we're going to bring in Mephisto and just see what that gameplay is like. So now we're not really worried about the SP3, because this is Realm of Legends, and all the Winter Soldier is going to fire off is 1 and 2. And this is just to show you the rotation on Dr. Doom, or what to use. Now we didn't crit on that SP2, so the incinerates are not like 1,000 each, it's more like 500 each incinerate. But here we go, we're gonna stagger him. His aura of incinerate, once it's active and you fire off that SP1 or 2, it's unblockable. Once his aura is up, you're gonna fire it off again, power drain, and for every hit, once his aura of incinerate is active, every light hit, he is going to drain, power drain Winter Soldier just a little bit. And here we go, SP1 unblockable, and that's it. Winter Soldier is done. Doom, definitely one of the top 5 to 10 champions in the game. Absolutely, if you have him, you want to rank him up. He does not need to be awakened to do this type of damage. 241 hits, and the fight is over. And most of that damage came from those incinerates and the SP2. Now let's get out of the fight, and we're going to go back in now using Mephisto. Now I'm going to tell you right up front, my personal fight style is using Mephisto as opposed to Dr. Doom. He's just a lot more fun. You don't have to think about anything. You just beat down the opponent. They immediately soul imprison. So for the first 10 seconds, you'll see that time on the top right, where Winter Soldier is soul imprisoned, means he cannot activate any of his buffs, which is cool. That is very useful in most fights when you're using Mephisto. Now Mephisto has a lot of good synergies as well. You could go back and pause the video and check out the synergies that he has. Everything helps him increase his attack. And now he's going to fire off the SP2, and once Winter Soldier had 2 bars of power, and we fire off the SP3, sorry. So for Mephisto, you want to get to the SP3, you want your opponent to have 2 bars of power, then you fire off the SP3, and now he's going to have that aura of incinerate for the entire fight. That aura of incinerate that is doing damage to any opponent close to him is going to be there and active for the entire fight. Now the SP3 also drains about 2 bars of power to the opponent. That's only one time. So the second time we fire the SP3 is not going to drain the bars of power, but what we're going to do is we're going to have an active power, passive power gain. As you can see, his power is just gaining over time there, and we are able to fire up that SP1 and incinerate and do huge amounts of damage as well on the opponent. Now if you look to the top left, you'll see Mephisto's persistency charges. He starts off the fight with 3 persistent charges. He's down to 2 because we fired off an SP1, So the tip is, longer fights do not fire off the SP1. Shorter fights fired off and the fight is over in absolutely no time at all. This is a 6-star awakened rank 2 Mephisto. So he's pretty deadly. Now the tip is, longer fights, you want to keep him fights where the opponent has huge power gains and going to activate SP3s and stuff. You can tank the SP3s by keeping his persistent charges at 3 or more, because if he was to get a knockout blow, he will not die. He would stay at 1% health and he would start regenerating health based on how many persistent charges he has. So he has a max of 6 persistency charges. He can regain 100% of his health and take out the opponent. So he's pretty much like Nick Fury in that event that you have him. He does a lot of damage, but if he was to get knocked out, he would stay in the fight, regain all of that health. But a fight like this, it's a demo fight. We're going to use these SP1s to do some damage with the Incinerate. If not, other fights, I would only use the SP2 or 3. Only the SP1 uses up 1 persistent charges to fire off the Incinerates and soul imprison the champion. Longer fights, you will not use the SP1. You would keep him at maximum persistency charges. Just in the event he gets knocked out, he's able to revive and survive, regenerate. All other fights, or by all means, just use that SP2 and SP3. The first SP3, make sure your opponent has at least 2 bars of power, so you get that active aura of incineration on permanently for the rest of the fight. If you did not have the opponent at 2 bars of power and fired off the SP3, you would just drain the opponent's health, but the incinerate aura of incineration would only be on for a certain amount of time. Now, as you can see, he's just a lot of fun. He just fires off the SP2, SP1, SP3. He has that passive power gain, so you can just use him to completely fire off SPs throughout the fight, much like Hyperion at this point. The guy is absolutely phenomenal. He's the soul imprisonment is crazy. But what is fantastic with Mephisto, he's immune to passive ability accuracy modification once he's awakened. If he's not awakened, he's still very good, because he soul imprisons the opponent for 15 seconds, preventing them from getting any buffs. 100% chance for that to happen. He also generates 12% of a bar of power per second instead of taking any incinerate energy damage, and he is immune to frostbite and cold snaps and all poisons of the battle realm. So he is tons of utility with this guy. He can counter a lot of champions, and that is why he's Mephisto. And in my opinion, overall, in my opinion, he is better than Doom. Now, that's just my opinion. Doom is very, very good in a lot of fights, but no one prevents Mephisto or is immune for that soul imprisonment, and that is just absolutely amazing. He does have a power drain once in the fight with that SP3 to remove 2 bars of power. But pretty much on a normal question, after he fires off that SP3, drains 2 bars of power, and he fires off some incinerates or SP2, the fight is pretty much always almost over and done. Plus, if he were to get a knockout blow, and it takes a while for him to get down to that point, but if he does get down to the point where he's knocked out and he has persistency charges, he is not going to die. He's going to regenerate health. And then you just, with that passive power gain, just fire off SP1 after SP1 after SP1, and the opponent is definitely going to take that damage and die. So again, my personal preference for game state pack, you don't have to think about it too much. It's just rinse and repeat. And I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. And please leave your comments below which champion you prefer. My personal preference is Mephisto, but obviously both champions are absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to work less, play more, and enjoy life. And I'll catch you guys next time. Have a fantastic day, guys. Bye-bye.